Three, two, one. Oh, okay. Let me just give it a little bit more volume on that one. One, two. How about that? One, two, one, two. Oh, okay. Hey, welcome everybody to Camden Anglican Church Drill Down. It's good to be with you this evening, and tonight we are looking at sort of the devil's point of view of things. It's particularly Revelation chapters 12, 13 and 14. So there's the plan. And Beatrix says hello. Hello, Beatrix. And there you go. And there we go. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Again, we're looking at Revelation chapter 12, 13 and 14. I'm a little bit dubious as to whether we will get to chapter 14, but we will see. And I will always be able to keep seeing how things are going because I've got my timer up there. And yeah, you might notice my special wheel as well. I'm trying to work out a way of using that. I'm going to use it as church, but I don't know if it can be used at drill down as well. Anyway, we'll see how we go. Let's dive into this passage, and we'll go here and here. We're at chapter 12 of Revelation. Let's have a look at it. So here we go. We've got a great sign appeared in heaven. Now, first of all, before we do any of this, I was to say that a lot of people note that some of the ideas here shared with things in heaven is, so I'm just going to adjust something there, is actually some of the zodiac signs. Now you would think, what? Why would the Bible be talking about zodiac signs? Well, I think that it was so prevalent back then. I mean, we talk about zodiac and we think of the stars and people writing in the local paper or whatever about, you know, you're going to meet your lifelong friend or whatever it might be. But the zodiac was prominent in the first century. The Magi, for example, were astrologers. Daniel was one of the Magi. And probably the reason why the Magi even turned up at Jesus, with Jesus when he was a couple of years old, was because of the impact of Daniel on Babylon for all that period up until Jesus was born. So astrology is woven within the thinking and mentality of believers, of people in the community back in the first century. And so there is some really good reasoning to suggest that John is actually making the most of that here. And you'll find that, and you can check this out, there is a astrological sign, Pleiades or something, and it's a woman, and this woman does have stars. The sun does come through her. The moon is between her feet at a point, and there are 12 stars that sort of crown this zodiac's head. So you think, well, is he talking about that? And I think probably he is, but what he's doing is taking what people are familiar with, and he's then putting it into this Hebrew apocalyptic genre and really just blowing their minds about it. Anyway, what does he see? He sees a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. Okay, so we've got a woman, that's important, and she was pregnant. So this is a pregnant woman, and she was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. So it doesn't just say she was pregnant and having a baby. No, she was pregnant and was crying out with birth pains and the agony of giving birth. So there is a real pain here, and some of you will know that I once had a sore shoulder and I was told that it was worse than giving birth. So I don't know what you women are worried about, but anyway, it was frozen shoulder. Then it went to the other one. So it was 18 months I was in labour. Anyway, now we have to think, who is this woman? We know later on that she gives birth to where is that? She gives birth here to a male child, one who will rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Now we know that's Jesus, so when we read back, we've got to ask, who is this woman? And you want to say, well, maybe it's Mary. And if you said it was Mary, you'd be right, but you wouldn't be totally right. You would need to add to Mary. Now, what do you add to Mary? Well, who else was pregnant in the Old Testament? Well, in fact, Israel was pregnant. Pregnant with promises that God made of a Messiah who would come, a son of David. So here we've got now Mary, a woman maybe with the face of Mary, but she is actually Israel as a whole, giving birth to the promises of God and in pain. Here is Israel in pain. But go back a bit more into the Old Testament and think about what else that might be. What other woman was told that she would have a child in the Old Testament? Now I get 20 seconds. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to think about this. It's ticking away there for me. I don't know if it's coming out there. Let me just make sure I've set the audio to what I want it to be. I want it to go to that. Yes, well, it is. So hopefully it's working. Ben took my headphones, so I don't have my headphones, so I can't check. Okay, there's 20 seconds. What Old Testament person was promised she'd have a child? I'm going to wait. And see in this live chat an Old Testament woman who had a child, who was promised to have a child. I'll just sit here for a while. Waiting. Oh, come on. Now, this is making me think all of you have just said, Hannah? Yeah. Sarah? Yeah. Abraham's wife? Thanks, Mary. Yes. Abraham's wife? Who else? Elizabeth? Yes. Sarah? Yes. Rebecca? Yes. Sarah? I've got Abraham's wife's got a good running in this one. Another woman. She'll have a baby. Gomer? Oh, yes, Ben Chin's Gomer. Oh, Gomer. It's all right. I thought that was a goner. Come on, there's still another one. Oh, I'm waiting. Come on, you're going to mention all the women in the Bible. I'm going to give you a hint in a moment. She's going to have a baby. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. You don't have to read very much into the Bible before you meet her. 20 seconds. Let's see how we go. 20 seconds. The Virgin of Isaiah 7? Well, that's a fair way in, but I think you might have heard me say 20 seconds is almost up. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Keep thinking. I know you're going to get it. Moses was born. Oh, Eve! Joanne Cole got it. Eve. Now remember Eve. She was told that it was said about her that she would Eve, the mother of all the living. Or Eve, there you go. Actually, Simon, you're right with Moses. We're going to get to him in a moment. Eve, wasn't it said about Eve that God would put enmity between Satan and the woman, between her offspring and yours? Genesis chapter 3, about verse 15. So this is Eve. This is Mary. This is Israel. Whether you think Adam and Eve were literal people or not, it doesn't really matter. But Eve definitely represented Israel. Adam and Eve represented Israel, but Eve represented pregnant Israel. And also, as Simon Peter mentioned there, we're going to go and think about Moses now, because Exodus begins with what? Pregnancies. And here is Israel in slavery, you could say in pain and agony, crying out to the Lord. And what do we first meet in Exodus chapters 1 and 2? But we meet midwives, and midwives with Israelite women giving birth. Now, one of those women is, don't forget you're 30 seconds ahead of us. So if you want us to answer a question, we'll be a bit behind. Oh no, I think I'm only 20 seconds ahead. I thought I was 20. It'd be really helpful if someone could time that, but I don't know how you're going to time that. Anyway, I don't know how to do that. Anyway, so what we're seeing here is this woman that John is talking about is Israel. It is, you could call her the messianic community, pregnant with the promises of God of a child, promises that began with Eve and have flowed through the whole of the Old Testament, and you mentioned so many of them, and now is culminated with Mary, and Mary is there giving birth to this son. We'll get back to the son, but the next thing is another sign appeared in heaven, and this other sign appeared in heaven is a great red dragon, or an enormous red dragon. Notice it didn't say an enormous pregnant woman beforehand. No, it's an enormous red dragon. It has 7 heads and 10 horns on his heads. And on his head 7 diadems. Now, all of these things, heads, horns, and diadems, are pictures of authority and control and power. So if you were to go back into Daniel, you would find where heads turn up and horns turn up. Horns are kings, and heads are kings in a way as well. So this whole idea is he has this massive authority. And how much authority does he have? It's interesting, isn't it? 7. It seems like complete. Now remember, why is 7 the number of completeness? Why is 7 the number of completeness? Well, because of the 7 days of creation, all the way into the Old Testament and the New Testament. 7 is this key number of for God and completeness for God, but also of completeness. So where it has 7 heads and 10 horns, there's this completeness. But these 10 horns could be referring to 10 kings, and some people have tried to work out which kings these were. And some have got some really good ideas, but it really doesn't matter in the end. What it is a dragon with tremendous authority. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth. So here we've got 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth. And there are some background there. So some people say that, like, he didn't act. So that can't be literal, can it? He can't cast down 1/3 of all the stars of heaven. One star is bigger than the earth. So it's picture language. So what we need to see is there is some sense that there is, maybe you could call it cosmic turmoil, cosmic fall, something like that. And what we have here, and possibly this is a picture of angels that have fallen. So 1/3 of heaven's angels have fallen. I don't know, maybe, but all we know that he's not doing what he's meant to do. And where is it? The dragon stood. Where is this dragon? The dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. So there's a pretty horrific and horrible picture, isn't it? And so it really picks up that idea, remember, of Eve. There's enmity between the woman and him, between Eve and the serpent, between his offspring and her offspring. So we've got a picture of this devourer ready to get a child. So if the child is Jesus, later on we find that, when did that happen? When is John pointing to a dragon standing before? Was there a dragon there when Jesus was born? Well, I don't remember seeing one. I didn't see one. I don't remember reading about one. Who was the dragon? What is this giving us a behind-the-scenes look into? A dragon about to devour a child. Any thoughts? Steve says 30 seconds, so I've already given you 10, so I'm going to give you another 20 seconds. I'm timing it there. I don't know if you hear that, but there should be a little ticking going away, possibly. Maybe not. Laptop 2, let me turn that on. Let's see what that does. Maybe. No. Okay. Yes, King Herod. Lauren is right and Joanne is right. Totally, isn't it? So here we've got Herod wanting to kill children. This sounds like a dragon, doesn't it? Wanting to kill children for all sorts of reasons, not to mention his own madness. So yeah, I think this picture. But there's another picture in the Old Testament of a dragon or even a snake wanting to destroy a child or children. Can you remember what that one is? Oh, I don't know if that's keeping. Can you hear that ticking? Maybe you can't. Master output. It's all on 100%. Oh, 100%. Old Testament. I gave a hint before. Something that Simon Peter said. Do I have some music? Sound effects. Could do this. I'm snoring. Get tired. Come on. No ticking. Joanne calls, says no, she can't think of it. No, or no ticking. All right. What about that? Is there snoring now? Sorry, I shouldn't fall asleep on you. An Old Testament picture of someone standing before another wanting to kill this child. Come on, Simon Peter, you've already said it. Are you thinking of the serpent, Genesis 3, trying to destroy Adam and Eve? No. That's a good one. That's a good anyway. Actually, that's a pretty good one. Yes, heard the snore. All right, that's good. Okay, I can do this. I'm going to give you the answer. Ready for the answer? Ba-chum. It's Moses. Remember? Moses. Pharaoh. Spot on, Simon Peter. Pharaoh was the dragon looking to kill the child. Yes, Graham Cooper, you got it as well. Moses' birth. Pharaoh was the dragon waiting to kill the children, the child. And what happened to Moses? He was snatched away, wasn't he? He was put into the water. Through the waters he was rescued with. There's a lot of birth images in all of that, even going through water. So we have in the birth of Jesus here a new Moses, a fulfilled Moses coming through. And then we come to the birth. She gave birth to a male child. Now, a male child, one who will rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Now, there's an Old Testament passage which says exactly all of those things, and I want to take you there now. So I might do this, and let's find the passage I was looking for. Oops, spotted past it. Here we go. Going to there. Oh, Simon Peter says I wasn't going to answer, but he did. You knew the answer, brother. Dive in. Okay, let's have a look. I've left that little AI thing there. I don't want to happen about that. So let's just come in a bit, and let's go down here, and let's look at Psalm 2. What do we find about Psalm 2? We've got the nations conspiring and the peoples plotting in vain. We've got the kings of the earth taking their stand against the rulers, gathered together against the Lord. Now we go all the way down, breaking their chains they want to do. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. Now, here we go. I have installed my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will proclaim the decree of the Lord. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. You will rule them with a rod, with an iron scepter. Here we go. See, you will rule them with an iron scepter and dash them to pieces like pottery. Go back to chapter 12, and what do we hear? We hear that he will rule with a rod of iron and rule the nations. So here we've got the Jesus, and it's a Psalm 2 reference. The reason I wanted to show you Psalm 2, because I think there is Psalm 2 threaded throughout Revelation, and I wonder whether actually might be the psalm. I'm just thinking about this today, so just take this with a grain of salt. I'm wondering if this might actually be, excuse me, the only Old Testament reference that's actually referenced in Revelation. Anyway, I'm not saying the only Old Testament in Revelation. Revelation's got more Old Testament than you can actually fit into it, but nothing is quoted. But I think sort of Psalm 2 is. Anyway, interesting. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll see how we go. Now, notice here that when the child is born, her child was caught up to God and to his throne. Well, boom. There. In but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. In 12 words is the whole of the Jesus story, the whole 30 years of Jesus. In 12 words, but a child was caught up to God and his throne. So here is a picture of the life and death and resurrection and ascension of Jesus, all in 12 words. The reason for that is that the focus is going to be on the woman and the dragon, not on the sun. So the sun is in the background, but here it's the woman and the dragon. And what happens to the woman? Well, the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days. We're going to come back to that. Now, this one, wilderness, again, remember who went into the wilderness? Israel went into the wilderness after they were rescued from the dragon or the serpent, Pharaoh, and they went through the Red Sea, they went through the waters, and so this is a real baptism picture. This is a new life for Israel. This is rescued Israel. This isn't Israel who is born again through the water. See, I think there's plenty of pregnancy and birth, giving birth images that have come up here. She's sent into the wilderness. Now, the wilderness was for Israel a place of safety, but it was also a place of testing. The testing, however, is not emphasized here. What is emphasized here is the safety. They have been rescued out of Egypt and are now in a safe place from Pharaoh. And the period that she's to be there is 1260 days. So 1260 days has come up before, and when it came up before in Revelation, it was in chapter 11. So let me pop over to that one and let's have a look at that now. Let's go to 3 and let's have a look. There it is. Get that right there. Who's this 1260 days referring to? Because that's only, look, there it is, not very far away. Chapter 12, back here, chapter 11, 1260 days. What's happening during these 1260 days? These 1260 days is the period that the 2 witnesses will prophesy. Now, we know that these 2 witnesses, no, I shouldn't be like that. What we do is we know that these 2, I am convinced that these 2 witnesses are not 2 characters who are yet to turn up on the planet and do all these things. The 2 witnesses represent the church. The reason I think that is because, first of all, it's 2 witnesses, and 2 witnesses is the standard sort of reliable witness in testimony. So there's 2 witnesses. And the church is talked about. If you have 2 people from the church is represented in those 2. So when 2 or 3 are gathered together, there I am in the midst of them. And there's that sort of thing. A passage that's often used wrongly, but anyway, so these 2, they prophesy for 1260 days, but they are also described as these are the 2 olive trees. The 2 olive trees, you've got to think directly, you've got to go to Zechariah and look at that. You just go across there. See, what's what we can do? Verse 4, little k, across here, you've got Psalm 52, Jeremiah 11, and Zechariah 4. In Zechariah 4 in particular, there are 2 olive trees, and the 2 olive trees refer to a king and a priest, and this king is Zerubbabel, and the priest is Joshua. And here now, so in Zechariah, it's a king and a priest, and in Revelation, who is described as a king and a priest? The church is described as a king and a priest. You go on, they are also the 2 lampstands. Who is described as a lampstand in Revelation? It's the church. So we've got 3 very strong pictures, aspects of what it is to be the church. These are the ones the church is prophesying for 1260 days. Now, this 1260 days is, I want to suggest, the period that we are in now. The church has a witness now over these 1260 days. But what is also happening is a woman who is, I'm going to say is the church, is taken care of for 1260 days. So the being taken care of and the prophesying is happening at the same period, and this is, and I'm suggesting this is what is happening right at our time right now, and that's our experience. Hope that's okay. That's a little bit controversial because I know lots of people don't think that way, but I do, and I'm just sharing it with you. And if you don't think that way, that's okay. We can chat, see how we go. So, talking about how we're going, let us see our... Oh no, I just reset the countdown. Uh-oh. Oh no. What's it doing? Why is that not coming on? Because I did that. So what I need to do is, what is the time? It's, okay, well, look, I'll tell you what, I think I was right. We're not going to get through this, but we're going to do our best because we've only got 15 minutes left. We'll see how we go. So now war arose in heaven. Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, but the dragon and his angels fought back. He was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. The great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil or Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. So here is the idea of possibly the third of heaven a little bit later, because he has angels, which we know as demons. which manifested particularly during the time of Jesus. Not only, but particularly in the time of Jesus. So here, we've got to ask this question. This battle that happened between Michael and his angels fighting, this battle was not back in Genesis 3, not Genesis 3, as some will think, but I think it is rather, it is rather the cross. So behind the scenes, when you look at the cross, if you were there, and you could have this in the background as well, you would be saying there is a great battle going on. And this great battle is what is happening at the cross. The cross is the victory against the evil one's accusations of sin and guilt. And the cross is the victory. People will say, isn't the resurrection? Well, it is, the resurrection is. But I think the cross particularly is because it's at the cross that sin is paid for. So no accusation can be put to the people of God because the debt has been paid. So pause for a moment, a pastoral pause. If you trust in Jesus, then you need to accept that you're accepted. You can know that you're accepted. What you need to do is accept that. You need to realize that the evil one will try to falsely accuse you, but the way you overcome him is by recalling the blood of the Lamb, which is where we go right now. Here I heard a voice in heaven saying, now, the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. Authority of his Christ, Psalm 2. Authority of his Christ, Psalm 2. I'm going to write that in there. Psalm 2, very important. Have come for the accuser, remember that? Accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before God. They have conquered him by what? They conquer him by the blood of the Lamb and, oops, I don't want that, and by the word of their testimony. Now, the word of their testimony is not them saying how they became a Christian. The word of their testimony is their testimony about Jesus and what he has done. For they loved they loved not their lives even unto death. So here is you can believe that Jesus died for you. You can claim the blood of the Lamb, but that is actually reflected in not loving your life and even unto death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them, but woe to you and the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, and he is upset, to give it great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. So here we know that he knows he's beaten, and he is pointlessly and vainlessly trying to cause as much havoc as possible in the meantime. But notice here that the focus is on the experience of the woman and the relationship between the woman and the dragon, because what we find later now is that when the dragon saw that he'd been thrown down, beaten, he pursued the woman. That's what he does. He pursues the woman who had given birth to the male child. See this, again, this reference to Jesus is there in Psalm 2. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness. Again, the wilderness is here, so she's escaped Pharaoh, serpent, whatever you want to say here. And the idea of an eagle, if you were to look up eagle, on eagle's wings, that's often a verse talked about where God has lifted you up on eagle's wings. And there she is to be nourished for what? A time, times, and half a time. A time, times, and half a time is 3.5 years, or 1,260 days, or 42 months. So there's three ways that it's spoken of. 1,260 days is the same as 42 months, is the same as 3.5 years, is the same as time, times, and half a time. But each of those are used in different ways, different aspects of the same period of time. So the 1,260 days, we know that the woman is kept safe in the wilderness, but also that is the time that of witness and testimony. So those are together. We find a bit later on the 42 months comes up, but already we know that the 42 months in chapter 11 is the trampling of the temple. And so we'll find this is persecution. So we're going to find out, is the next 42 months persecution? Here, though, it is a time, times, and half a time, which I think references back to both those periods of witness and of protection in the wilderness. But happy to hear what your thoughts are on that. The serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with a flood. Now, look, there is so much in this. Where does this river come from? It comes out of his mouth. So this is not a fire-breathing dragon. This is a water-breathing dragon. Now, the water is sent out to drown the Israelites, to drown the woman, and what we'll find is this woman is the church as well. Now, just think here. If you think back to last week, we talked about the demonic forces that had power to kill, but the power was in their mouths. And here is a flood coming out of the mouth to destroy the woman. I just think there is this continual power in the mouth. So it's the power of words to rescue. It's the power of words to be false teaching from the dragon. Possibly something like that. But the earth came to the help of the woman, and the earth swallowed opened his mouth and swallowed up the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Some more things to say there, but we'll keep moving on. Then the dragon became furious with the woman. This is important. Became furious with the woman and went to make war on the rest of her offspring. And who are the rest of her offspring? On those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. So here we've got some definitions. We've got the evil one, the dragon, pursuing the woman but unable to, and now he makes his war on the offspring of the woman, which I'm suggesting, and I think totally is right, is the church. So what we're getting in this passage is that there is a spiritual opposition to the church. Now, this is not just a little devil on someone's shoulder saying, tell a lie, steal something. No, this is a much bigger picture. The evil one's focus is the church. He's pursuing the church. He will persecute the church. He's trying to take the church's worship away from God to himself. From God to whatever, as long as it's from God. Now, how's he going to do that? We're going to fly through this next bit. He's going to do it with two beasts. One beast is up out of the sea, and the next beast is up out of the land. And I have a suggestion about that. The sea, often in Revelation, is talking about the Gentile world. The land is often talking about the Jewish world. So we've got the sea is the Gentile world, the land is the Jewish world, as a suggestion there. This beast rises out of the sea, and so you can imagine this sort of picture of, we're going to find out that this beast is Rome, and you can imagine the picture of standing on the shore of the sea and the Mediterranean in Israel and looking out and seeing the Romans come with their ships, and on the front of their ships were these big beastly carvings, and you can see this beast coming out of the sea. It's a political power opposed to Jesus as Lord. And so we've got this beast, and notice that he too has 10 horns and 7 heads and 10 diadems, and on its horn blasphemous names on his head. This is all from Daniel. So this is all imagery from Daniel, the same sort of apocalyptic sort of imagery. The beast was like a leopard with bear's feet and a mouth like a lion. So we've got this bear, lion, and the dragon gives power and throne and great authority. So the dragon is not up front. He has henchmen who do the dirty work for him, and the henchmen that are doing the dirty work for him is this beast and the second beast that we're going to see. And it says here they worshipped the dragon, for he had, where we go, worshipped the dragon, for he'd given authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast and who could fight against it? Here is a sense of of power that is just too much, is just amazing. You know, this is the Romans, this is the Roman Empire. How can we fight against them? The beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it opened its mouth to blaspheme against God. It was allowed to make war against the saints. And notice that it was allowed to make war against the saints. It was given authority to make war against the saints. Now, and over the, it was given authority over every tribe and people and language. So here we've got Rome being spoken of, and this is where I want to say that I think that the images in Revelation, the characters in Revelation, are code and symbol. So code means that they actually stand for a real historical character that people back then would have known. It was in code, and the code here of this beast is Rome. That's it. Plain, simple. But it's also symbol. It's code for Rome, but it's symbol of any government or authority in opposition to God's rule expressed on God's people. That sort of thing. That's the beast. That is the beast. And all who dwell on the earth, everyone whose name has not been written beforehand, the foundation of the world, the book of life, the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear to hear, let him hear. Where is there? I thought, yes, that's I jumped over that. Here, notice this. How long is that happening? 42 months. What happened before in 42 months? 42 months, same as 3.5 years, 1,260 days, times and half time. But 42 months' way of talking about it was the trampling of the temple by the Gentiles in chapter 11. So those two go together, I believe. And here we go. And here is the news. If anyone is to go into to be taken captive, he's going to be taken captive, and anyone to be slain, he'll be slain with the sword. With the sword he must be slain. This calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints. Patient endurance. Can you see that in the background? Now, what we have here is saying to those who are under the threat of the persecuting Roman government, you're probably going to be killed. Now, wouldn't this word have given power to people to women like Blandina? She was a little bit later. A slight woman, but on the inside a powerful woman, who was persecuted in a number of ways and tried to renounce Jesus. But she didn't. Because I think she knew this verse. She knew that God wasn't going to sweep in and save the day last minute, but that she could entrust her soul to him even though her body might be killed. I think this is very powerful, and I think she is a great example of endurance and faith of the saints. That's what it's calling for. Now, I've got minus 30 seconds, but I really want to tell you about the second beast, and then we'll stop. I saw another beast rising up out of the earth. Now, remember, I'm suggesting that the sea represents Gentiles, and the earth or the land represents Israel. Which makes this a bit weird, a bit scary, because this beast, it has 2 horns like a lamb. It looks like a lamb, but it speaks like a dragon. So we've got looking like a lamb, but speaking, remember the mouth? Speaking like a dragon. I think this could be referring to unbelieving Israel. An unbelieving Israel working hand in hand with the Romans. And historically, that's just what happened, isn't it? Historically, the Jews were given exemption from worshipping the emperor. And the reason they were given exemption from worshipping the emperor was because they didn't actually worship any other gods. They were atheists. But that is, they didn't worship any other image of a god. So if you didn't have an image, you didn't have a god. They worshipped an invisible God. And so there's a bit of agreement there between the Jewish people and the Jewish unbelieving people and Rome, that they would be exempt from having to light the candle, light the incense, and say that Caesar was Lord. However, Rome thought that the Christians were a part of the Jews. The Jews really said, no, Rome, they are baddies. They are not part of us. They are going against you. So they are Israel. They look like a lamb, but they speak like a dragon. There's a whole lot of stuff about that now, and I think I want to move on and get to the end of the passage, because I want to talk about 666 to finish off with. There's a lot more we could have said then, but I knew we wouldn't get through this. 666. Now, there has been so much said about 666. I want to throw in something different. 666 is actually not 666, but it's the number 666. And there is a thing in lots of languages and cultures where numbers match words. And the number 666 does match the name of Nero. So when they were looking at this, that you could have said, it's called gematria. And gematria was where numbers represent names. So 666, they would have seen that as code for Nero, but also seen it as symbol for any Nero-like character that comes along in the future that has opposition to God and to worshipping him, and therefore persecutes Christians. And I think we'd see that today in places like North Korea. You could say 666 is the number of the beast, the number of Kim Jong-il. So in Korea. However, I want to add something. Before we finish. Hang in there. I've gone 5 minutes over. Goodness. 666. I think when we're uncertain about something in Revelation, we need to look at it and then not look around as to what it might be, but look back into the Old Testament. And in the Old Testament, there is the number 666. And the number 666 is actually the wage of Solomon, his yearly wage of gold, 666 talents of gold. But it's at that point that Solomon turns and the downward spiral begins. And he takes on wives and he gets lots of horses and all these sorts of things. That it's actually the downfall of Solomon is represented in this number 666. Now, if the second beast is Israel, unbelieving Israel, I should say, that is Israel that will not accept that Jesus is their Messiah, then this number 666 sort of makes sense, because it's a number that represents their downfall, the key moment that Solomon turned away from God and fell. Here is the moment that Israel turns away from God in the Lord Jesus and falls. Well, that's a thought. Chapter 14 we're not going to look at, but I'm just going to say, then I looked, and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb, and with him 144,000. On Mount Zion, Psalm 2. Psalm 2, Psalm 2. Again, I have installed my king. And you're saying, I don't believe you, I don't believe you. Well, I want to finish with it. And we go, which one? Oh, I've got to keep remembering which one this is. I have installed my king on Zion, my holy hill. Zion, Mount Zion. It's Psalm 2. Psalm 2. I think there's something really big about Psalm 2. It keeps coming up. Actually came up in chapter 11 as well. But we've got to the end. I would love to keep going. But if I keep going, I'm going to go all night. And I've got more to do. I've got a funeral tomorrow. I need to get ready for it. There you go. Tonight, we got through chapter 12 and 13. Whether we got through it well or not, well, that's up to you to decide. Lots of things to think through. Hey, thank you. It's great to be with you tonight. I love it that we can do this. And please, if you can think of things that would be more helpful, or if you have questions, please put them in the comments. I want to say that if you put any comment in the comment section, it actually helps this to get out to others. So if you can tonight, just put a comment. Just put in there and say, this was terrible, thumbs down. Or this was amazing, thumbs up. That really helps this word to get out. Totally up to you though. I'm here for you. I'm not here for everyone. Oh, Ellen Ward's here. Now, I'm late. Ellen, you're late and I'm finishing late. So you would have got here and I'm already finished. Anyway, let me pray. Father, we thank you that you have told us that the evil one is in the background against us. We pray for patient endurance on the part of the saints, whether we suffer physically or are threatened with compromise. We pray that you would help us to patiently endure no matter what. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Good to see you. See you later.